First, let's make sure this gun is safe. Magazine is out. It's empty. Now it's safe. And I picked this pistol because this shows the angle of the muzzle better. And here is where I want to teach how to shoot one hand. Now, in most cases, it's very unlikely you're going to get shot in your hand, but more likely you're going to have your loved ones next to you holding your hand, and you want to protect them. And usually when they attack a family, they come in a group of 2 or 3. So here, when you feel a little threatened, we're going to go into where you are exposing your gun, having your hand on the pistol grip, and with the left hand, you're gonna hold or push your loved ones behind you. We're gonna shout the command. No, stop right there. And with the beep, with the left hand, you're still holding back your family. And with your right hand, we're gonna draw and fire. Now, shooting one hand gets a little tricky, and they have different devices. And I'm gonna be teaching what I think is the best way. And there's a good reason for that. And as I was doing research, I was really surprised watching different videos. In many cases, the intended victims, they're shooting with one hand. And that's because when you see a gun in your face or somebody charging at you, your first instinct is to run or hide and try to shoot at the same time. And when you're in the middle of a shootout, a lot of people are missing because they're ducking and shooting and they have not practiced shooting with one hand. And it's really a matter of split seconds who gets shot first. So practicing and building a new muscle memory for one-hand shooting just makes sense. Now, if you watch videos, you see that most people who shoot with two hands like this are the cops. And that's because cops are already drawn and they have other policemen with them. But even the policemen, when they're in a desperate shootout, you could see them shooting with one hand and try to hide behind their cars and try to get out of the line of fire. Now, I've seen a lot of different advices on how to shoot with one hand, and some of them are great advice, some of them not so great. So let's talk about it. But before we do that, let's talk about the grip. Now, when you shoot with one hand, the grip is more important than shooting with two hands. Now, we are very used to shooting with two hands, where your left hand is completely covering the three amigos and holding the gun straight up. So this is what we are really used to. But we want to keep the same pose except with one hand, meaning you got to have more pressure on top of your wet, and especially the last two fingers to control the muzzle flip. Okay, first, what they're saying is that when you're shooting to one hand, it's more difficult to control your muzzle. So what a lot of people advise is to move your right foot forward and shoot. That way you could control your muzzle better. Now, the only problem is, in real life, when the shit hits the fan, you're not going to be moving forward. Instead, you'll be running back and shoot. I'm sure this is going to help in the competition, but not in the real defense shooting. And the second, a lot of people say, bend your elbow a little bit so that when you shoot, you can actually control your muzzle better and get back on target quick. Now, the problem with this is that police body cam shows that when real situation happens, even the cops, they do full extension. So you want to practice like this. One more thing, when you have your hand bent like this and doing a rapid fire, your pistol is going to be going up a lot higher. But when you have your hand locked, this will keep your pistol on the target a lot better. And the third is following your natural point. Now, we're used to pointing our finger like this all our lives. So when we point, we naturally do this. So even with a pistol, we're thinking like this. Now, this is not a good idea, in my opinion, because now you have to build a new muscle memory pointing this way, while we already have this in our muscle memory. And we don't want to have two different muscle memory when you're shooting. You really want to have one that works well for you. And I also think this has two problems. Now, if you see a video in a serious shootout, you see people shooting multiple fires really fast. And if you have your gun like this and you're shooting it like that, your gun's gonna follow the direction of your slide movement. So you'll be shooting it like this. Now, the biggest problem is you might miss the bad guy completely and you will have a higher chance of shooting the innocent people. But if you have your gun straight forward and as you're firing, your gun is going upward. So you have a higher chance of hitting the bad guy on the neck or their head, and you have a less chance of shooting innocent people. And I actually tried shooting it like this. Now, my biggest problem was having the sights in my eye because I'm used to finding the target like this. But now like this, I was having a little hard time finding the target. So I was a little slower. So I definitely need to build new muscle memory. So again, think of it as shooting with two hands and stay with this muscle memory, except take away your left hand. Now, for those people who have a cross-eye dominant, I think tilting your pistol is not a bad idea because they're doing this. But with one hand, that becomes very difficult. So having your gun tilting and having your sight coming toward your eye, this is much easier. That I can understand. And the last advice that I've seen a lot is that they want you to have your left hand fist in your chest and shoot like this. Now the problem is, in real life, I have not seen anybody putting their hand in their chest and defending themselves. Instead, their left hand is constantly moving, trying to run away or trying to hide or even trying to block. Now for the competition, I think it makes a good sense where you're standing, having your fist in your chest and shooting. But in real life, your left hand has to be in the movement to balance yourself as you're running away or hiding or whatever. Now for the safety reason, in our advanced defense shooting with one hand, we're gonna do the basic where we're gonna help you to build your muscle memory and shoot safely and accurately. But in next class, in our extreme defense shooting, it's gonna get a lot more real. You're gonna be practicing how to shoot with one hand as you're turning and running, or hiding behind the building or behind the car and shooting. So for competition shooting, foot forward, bend the elbow, fist the chest, and target shooting like this makes sense. But in real life, I can't imagine me being in this position fighting for my life.
Stand by. Stop. No. Like I say, 2.58 seconds. Stand by. Stop. No. Like I say, 2.31 seconds. Okay, this time I'm going to try tilting my gun to the left and see if I can shoot better. Stand. Stop. No. 3.39 seconds. Okay, having the gun tilted like this, the recoil was a little funny to me, so it wasn't faster or accurate.